A Giants podcast for Giants fans
by Giants fans.
From the offseason to the wins and the losses, it's time to take one Giant step.
Welcome in to One Giant Step. The date is Thursday, September 4th, 2025. The mission is simple. A brand new Giants season. The first season in 6 years without a Daniel Jones argument or cloud hanging over the fan base and the organization. Sure, there'll be bickering about when Jackson Dart will start. Sure, there will be disagreements about how good the defense can be. Sure, we will yell and scream about certain Brian Daboll moments, good or bad. But that's the beauty of football being back and fan bases getting to bicker. And we get to bicker and argue and debate and discuss all of that with you twice a week right here, the occasional 3 times a week on One Giant Step. This is my call and my plea like I will do each and every week. If you're a first-time listener or viewer, welcome on in. I'm Shaun Morash from WFAN. Bryce Gelman, my co-host and executive producer, does a great job here as well. We are both diehard Giant fans. This is a podcast for Giants fans, by Giants fans, with plenty of thoughts, insight. We'd like to get you guys in the tweets, the mailbags, all those questions as well throughout the year. Doesn't mean we'll do 10 tweets a show, any of that stuff. At Bryce Gelman over there on Twitter, at Shaun Morash on Twitter. Download and subscribe to this podcast everywhere podcasts are available and free on that Audacy app. Check us out on YouTube, on the WFAN YouTube page as well. We will be your companion along the way, holding your hand throughout this entire Giant season, giving you the bleeding feelings of a fan base that has been beaten down for far too long. And we don't know what that win total will be. We hope that by the end of this year, there's real promise and encouragement about the direction of the New York Giants franchise. But that's up to the players on the field and the coaches there, what goes on. So, Bryce, another journey begins. We will do our game pick against the spread, give you what we think will happen. We'll give you kind of a fantasy play from the game as well in our fantasy reality segment that returns towards the end of this show. We'll give you, a giant problem here, if you will, what we think will be an issue, but it might be more the reality of the game. We'll do all of that, but just kind of an overlay of this game. The Giants will take on the Commanders for the 4th time in season openers. The Commanders are 2-1 against the Giants all time in those openers. You might remember the Giants losing in that 2011 game when they eventually would go on to win the Super Bowl. That's just one opener that comes to mind. The Washington Commanders are trying to do something versus the New York Giants that hasn't been done in a long, long time. We talk about the Giants' struggles versus the Eagles, Bryce. Washington is looking to win 3 straight games against the Giants for the first time since a stretch between 1998 and 2000. I mean, that is incredible. Basically the 98 and 99 seasons, if you will. Bryce, how old were you the last time that this happened?
-2.
You weren't even born yet.
-2.
You were not born the last time the Washington franchise, then the Redskins,
Dude,
beat the Giants 3 straight times.
It's the Dan Snyder effect. He sells the team, and this is what happens.
Yeah, I say that to say the Commanders have been a team that the Giants, even in their bad years, have been able to take care of. And last year, it was kind of a mess. The Giants still, in what was an all-time Commander year, getting to an NFC Championship game, had the Commanders on the ropes, not once, but twice. We all remember the first game, obviously, with Graham Gano being unavailable, the Devin Singletary fumbles. I'm painting a positive picture here to tell you, despite the Commanders making an NFC Championship game, they have their questions. Their offensive line, their right guard will be out of this game. This is kind of a reshaped offensive line. Terry McLaurin is back. But Brian Robinson's been traded. Major questions outside of Jaden Daniels around that Commander offense, especially the offensive line. And this is a defense led by Dan Quinn, their head coach / defensive guru, that wasn't necessarily dominant last year. So the Eagles gashed them all over the place in the NFC Championship game. Will there be big plays available? And Malik Neighbors had no problem at times until he dropped the pass in that early game versus the Commanders, where they'll be able to contain him. Giants have their own questions, right, Bryce? I mean, we talk about and talk about how great this defense could be. Well, it's time. You're going up against an elite quarterback in week 1. What are you going to do? How can you contain him? Abdul Carter, no sacks in the preseason, playing sparingly. What kind of factor will he be? And like it or not, and we don't know who's going to be the quarterback too, The one great wide receiver outside of DK Metcalf that Deonte Banks has actually played well against in his career is Terry McLaurin. So we have that going for us. Paulson Adebo now enters. Javon Holland enters. Just an intriguing matchup overall, Bryce. So, look, I'm not going to give away my pick yet. I will just tell you, I have tepid optimism about the way these two teams match up, the way week ones can be very fluky and goofy in the NFL, and the way the Giants approach the preseason and playing their starters and the enthusiasm. All of that excites me and makes me feel more encouraged. Although I think we're always encouraged ahead of week one. I was encouraged going into the Viking game, and I was dead wrong last year, but I could point to signs in training camp on why I should have seen that. I was encouraged off the 2022 year starting the season versus Dallas, and obviously didn't get off the bus. And that was wrong. So here I am encouraged again. I'd like to think I have more reason for optimism and encouragement heading into week one, but nonetheless, this is big boy pants time, division game on the road, team that was in the NFC Championship game. It's go time.
Dude, I'm hyped. And you just mentioned it, the idea that there was hype surrounding last year and hype surrounding the year before, in which they got absolutely destroyed by the Cowboys, 40-0. And I understand that that's coming up a playoff year. Daniel Jones just got the bag. Everything was looking up, right? And then they got that sucker punch, 40-0. Everything, went down the drain. But going into this year, something's different. The hype is palpable, Shaun. And I don't feel like this is just being overblown by two Giants fans here. You see it all around. You see it from the beat reporters too. You see it from everyone else. You see it from the team. I saw this tweet the other day, and I just kind of wanted to mention this and my overall point here. Malik Neighbors was talking about Jackson Dart and getting him prepared, and Jackson Dart essentially was frustrated learning the playbook. Malik Neighbors went and helped him out. There is real culture here, Shaun. Remember last year, at the end of that year, with all the passive-aggressive comments from Malik Neighbors?
Sure.
Now he's saying this. Now he's all in. He's locked in. We're locked in too. We see this. We are excited for this season. And that's not to say that what can happen this season isn't, potentially disastrous. We look at the schedule. It was the hardest. Now it's the third hardest after the Cowboys traded away Micah Parsons. I digress. This is an extremely difficult schedule. And this is a team that might have some growing pains here. They got Russell Wilson, who's got the shortest, of all leashes maybe in the NFL. Jackson Dart could come in by week 4 or 5. People are saying now when it was, when we discussed the original schedule release, maybe it could be, week 9, week 10. Now people have pushed it up to week 4 or 5. And I say all that to say this. No matter what happens in this year, no matter what happens in week 1, I think we can all look to this year as being the start to something special for the Giants. And I think that that's the hype. That's the excitement that I have going into this year. It's not just the fact that, we had a good, the Giants had a good offseason. They made some good moves. They bolstered the secondary, yada, yada, yada. It's the idea that this could be the jumping off point going forward for this team. And it all starts here, Shaun. That's why I'm hyped up. That's why I'm jacked up. Of course, football's back and everyone's excited for football. It starts tonight. We're recording this at 9 a.m. on Thursday morning. By the time you see this, the game might be going on between the Cowboys and the Eagles. But either way, there's a certain palpable level of hype here. That
you yada over the best part. Insert Seinfeld joke here. You may be too young for that reference. I realize as it leaves
I got through one episode of Seinfeld. That's a whole.
I'm not doing that. We're not spending week 1 on you getting through one episode of Seinfeld. You're a loser.
I knew exactly when I said that. I opened up potentially a can of worms there. But listen, I think this could be the start of something special. Is what I'm trying to get
at. I'm with you. I think, Bryce, and all kidding aside, I know we bust on each other. I think you actually had a very salient point there. The hype. And I think that if you're a non-Giant fan and you see Giant fans excited, it's getting a little misconstrued. I don't believe that this is a 10-win football team yet. Obviously, I have concerns still. The offensive line in a second. I'd still like another really awesome offensive lineman on this team, and hopefully Marcus Bowe develops into that. It's wait and see. At cornerback, too. I might be excited about Flott, and we all have our Banks issues and this, that, the other thing. And also, quite frankly, the pass rush is great on paper, but that's paper, right? I mean, if we're being honest within ourselves, Shane Bowen scheming this up, getting these guys in the right field. Shane Bowen's under enormous pressure here. Everybody loves Darius Slayton. I think he's a great veteran, voted captain. Outside of Malik Neighbors, they're going to need Darius Slayton, especially with a quarterback willing to take deep shots to go after it. I think this is an interesting case study because we're sitting here on the week 1 preview edition of this podcast, and the beauty of us is opposed to anybody on a bar stool anywhere or anybody with their friend circles at a barbecue last week or this week at the school bus stops, and they're talking about it. It's very easy to say something and say how you feel and throw it out the window and not have it held on record. We're having everything we're saying held on record.
Yeah.
I hope that I feel this way in week 5, week 6, week 7, in that usually, because I'm a psychopath, Giants losses marinate with me and dictate my mood all week. And I could fly off the handle at times. And maybe that's unhealthy. Maybe that's healthy because it's a release from the everyday nonsense. I don't know. But that's what the Giants have always provided me.
I don't think that's healthy.
And maybe not. Maybe not. But I'd rather yell and scream about that than anything with my family or, you know what I mean? So I think that I don't want this to be a year. I don't want them winning 3 games. But I want this to be a year where if they win 6, 7 games, something like that, I understand it. And I realized that was my approach going into the year, and that no matter what this year, because Bryce, we've done 2 seasons of time to tank. Let's look at the quarterbacks. They drafted Jackson Dart. And for all the Jackson Dart hype, we have no idea if he's really going to be great or not. We have encouraging signs, and we want to believe and hope, and we'll have time to worry and scream that he's not great if and when he's not. This is not a tank year now. Like, no matter what, when they start losing enough games and the team flips to Jackson Dart, each and every one of those games, you're going to root hard for the team to win because you want to see the quarterback develop. So I think just from that standpoint, that also is excitement around this year, right? Like, no matter what, even in a bad win-loss season, you're going to approach every week with some level of excitement because of the development or the waiting to bring in a quarterback.
Shaun, that's a good place to be. It's a good place to be as compared to a team with extremely high expectations that if they falter, there could be massive changes. And that's not to say that this team doesn't have any expectations. They don't have any pressure, but there's an inherent belief. And it's not just a belief. It's not subjective. It's objective. They have an extremely difficult schedule. It's still a very young team. They've got a rookie quarterback. Anything can happen. What can hit the wall in week 5, where we're all talking about what's going to happen with this, with the front office, with the head coach. But it's a good place to be. And it's kind of where I set up myself for expectations in life. I try to lower the expectations. I try to lower the hope. So when, things go wrong, it's not as bad. This is just naturally the case right here. Obviously, if they win 3 or 4 games, we're going to be pissed. We're going to be on this podcast week in, week out, signaling the end for Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. I don't think it's going to get to that point. I want to caution everyone here by saying, don't get too upset. If the Giants get out to a bad start, if they only win 5 or 6 games, the over-under is 5.5.
Right.
6 games would be a win. Like, it's crazy to say, but who knows? This could be the jumping off point, as I mentioned earlier, for the next few years. So just want to caution the fans, don't get, too ahead of yourselves here.
I'm with you. So with that, how excited am I? I'm curious if anybody else is doing this, but I'm doing something I haven't been able to do in a while, but I enjoy doing. I'm a road game guy. Before I had kids, I want to say it was the 2014 season, although I could be off by a year. That sounds right. Maybe it was 2015. I went and saw the Giants in Jerry World open up the season versus the Dallas Cowboys. And it was a lot of fun. Me and my wife had a great weekend seeing Dallas and Arlington and Fort Worth. And the Giants lost a heartbreaking Sunday night opener. It was week 1, where Jason Witten burned Wani Unga with like 13 seconds left. And we were left basically crying in our milk. Okay. Or beers at that time. And I had to take like an early morning flight. And it was brutal, but it was a fun time, right? It was fun seeing a city. And I took that and I went home, and I had like a small group of friends that were also Giant fans that were willing to do, wow, you went to Dallas. Let's start doing this. And I believe it was 2000. So maybe that was 2015, 2016. We end up in Cleveland on Thanksgiving weekend, and the Giants beat the Browns on when they were a great team. And Beckham scores a touchdown. JPP has a pick, and it was a blast. We had a great weekend in Cleveland. Got hammered, drunk. We had an awesome weekend. The next year, we decide we're going to go to Tampa Bay in 2017, early season game. Remember, that was a hyped 2017 team off of Ben McAdoo. O.J. Howard kills him in the game. Brandon Marshall gets hurt in that game, basically never plays again. That was like the very brief stint Brandon Marshall has with the Giants. We had a great weekend down in Tampa. Show rolls on. 2018, I believe, was the year we went to Atlanta.
Get to your point.
No, I'm just telling you, I did all these. 18, we get to Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz. I'm saying the point because the Giants lose a lot of these games. They lose to the Falcons on Monday Night Football. I get to see Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That was really cool. And then 2019, I kind of found a loophole. I went to a road game at MetLife Stadium versus the Jets, where Jamal Adams robbed Daniel Jones's soul. So I think that was 5 straight years I did those road games. I have a kid in December of 2019. I stopped going. The pandemic hits. I end up getting to go to like a Jet Raider game on the road. I haven't really been to road games since. I'm going. I am going this week to week 1 in Washington. And rather than spend the whole weekend there, because it's very tough with my job, I'm trying to pull off the 1-day trip from Long Island to Washington, D.C. to show you Giants fans listen to how big I am. I am on essentially a 6 a.m. Long Island Railroad train from my local station. I am on, to give myself enough time, around an 8 a.m. train out of Penn Station and Amtrak that will take me down to the Washington, D.C. area, of which I will arrive at a Amtrak stop at 11:27 a.m. Eastern time. That is apparently an 8 to 10 minute taxi Uber ride from Len FedEx Field, now whatever it's called. So I'm going to kind of miss the tailgate scene. I'm going to roll up. No, it's like Northwestern Stadium. I plan on rolling up to the stadium by noon, 12:15, walking in, getting settled, getting into my seat, watching the New York Giants play football in their week 1 game. I am then hoping the game ends around 4:30 on around a 5:30 Amtrak home. So it gives me about an hour to get back to this station, hour and a half if the game ends at 4. I will arrive back in Penn Station, New York, and Manhattan around 9 o'clock, take like some kind of 9:20 train back that gets me back around my home around 10:30. And my plan is to wake up early at 5:30 in the morning, go to Washington, D.C., and back to Long Island, and be on my couch by the 4th quarter of Sunday Night Football. And I hope that that is not the longest, worst train ride home and that the Giants reward me. Bryce.
Sounds like a brutal day if they lose.
Bryce, I'm not looking for pats on the back, but I am a little bit. That's a good job by me for the Giant opener. I'm sorry. I'm playing planes, trains, and automobiles with no hotel, getting to and from a game in Washington, D.C. on a Sunday and getting back before the Sunday night game ends.
Good for you. And I hope for your sake and no one else's sake that the Giants put together a good performance this Sunday at 1.
Okay, so I also said that to say if there's any of our listeners out there, and I know that people travel to these games nonstop. I see people tweeting all the time. If you happen to be a listener out there that's pulling this off, I can't imagine I'm going to be the only one on the Amtrak to and from D.C. that day. Now, people might be getting off in Jersey. People might be getting off, not going as far as Long Island back. But if you're on and you're hearing this going, that's got to be the same Amtrak train home. Let's link up, if we can, celebratory Amtrak beers. How about that? Let's do that. So that is where I will be. I have seen brutal losses. I don't think I've seen a road win since Cleveland in 2016. Let's right the ship. Let's right the ship. Now, the other thing I wanted to get to at the week 1 preview. We are taping this on Thursday morning. Andrew Thomas did practice Wednesday in their only day of practice with pads. It's important to note. By the time you're listening or watching this, you might have bad Andrew Thomas news or good Andrew Thomas news. I am not going to dive too deep into the Andrew Thomas stuff because, unfortunately, and this is what happens when you do podcasting as opposed to live radio, injuries in the NFL, things turn over quickly, right? Guys could pop on the injury report or not. That is the only injury on the Giants injury report. If you had to give me my guttural instinct says, and this is the way I'm going to approach my game pick, that Andrew Thomas does not play, despite the fact that he was limited in practice.
Really?
I want to be wrong. I think we see him in week 2. I think we give it one more week. That's my gut instinct. I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, that is obviously massive implication. And that's kind of what sucks about our eventual game pick and fantasy versus reality, because we've discussed it. He might be the most important Giant.
Okay.
I think he probably is.
But this is the next point I wanted to bring up. I agree with you that he is. I'm going to give Joe Shane a little bit of credit here. The drop-off is still massive when you lose an Andrew Thomas. But they were not prepared for Andrew Thomas injuries in the past, and they put out their unplayable players. Josh Azudu could not be a left tackle. He got Daniel Jones killed in that Miami game 2 years ago. Let's be honest. Whatever you think of Daniel Jones, he was dead once and for all as far as his career went when he hurt his neck in that game before he even tore the ACL. And Josh Azudu's crying in the locker room after he was not prepared to play left tackle in the NFL. They have to go basically garbage hunting with a guy named Hubbard off the practice squad last year. They've had to, rotate it out. They finally got cooking a little bit with Jermaine Illuminor. I'm not a huge James Hudson guy, but at least like in practices, he had a little tenacity to him. I think that works in the Giants' favor. He's at least a veteran. I would not play Marcus Bowe, a rookie 5th-round pick at left tackle in week 1. Approach that the same way you're doing with Jackson Dart. As good a camp as he had, he was still he never played left tackle in college. I think they're doing a good job developing him. Now, if you wanted to play Jermaine Illuminor at left tackle and Marcus Bowe at right tackle,
maybe Bowe.
I'd hear that argument. I'm not playing Marcus Bowe at left tackle. You play James Hudson, you play your strengths. Here's the other thing the Giants have going for them. Right, wrong, or indifferent. Russell Wilson is not a mentally beaten down quarterback behind this bad offensive line without Andrew Thomas, where Daniel Jones was. And Daniel Jones was seeing ghosts and seeing skeletons. I have more confidence in the quarterback position being able to elevate offensive line play and kind of navigate in certain situations without Andrew Thomas than I did with Daniel Jones. Now, it could still be a disaster. I'm not telling you, oh, don't worry, Andrew Thomas is out. I'm just saying the Giants are better equipped both at quarterback and both at the depth they produced at tackle, not to get by in a season. I mean, they'd be cooked if Andrew Thomas got by, but on a week-to-week basis, and again, they're not facing Micah Parsons this week in Washington. Still a good defensive front, don't get me wrong. I think they're more equipped, and I think also the Commander run defense had been an issue last year. I mean, look what Saquon Barkley did to him. You have a couple backs here, go run the hell out of the football, hope you hit a couple deep balls. It's not like we're expecting the Giants to put up 35 points anyway. Bryce, all I'm saying is if Andrew Thomas doesn't play, am I going to be annoyed? Yes, but I'll understand the approach. I'll appreciate not wanting them to get hurt long term, and I'll have more confidence entering a game that this team could actually function, both based on quarterback and their depth, than I would have been otherwise and how they had been the last couple of years.
And we're going to get to this. The game pick, but the line right now is -6, and maybe that's already built into it because the Giants covered that line in the last 2 games they played against the Commanders. And look at all this hype after this offseason for the Giants. Maybe that's already built in. You know, I'm just grasping at straws, but could be the case.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So that's where I'm at, and that's where you're at, and that's where you guys should know we're at when we give our picks and our fantasy versus reality. So without further ado, Bryce, let's get into our fantasy versus reality discussion. So if you're new to the show, here's the deal. We give you kind of a fantasy pick on where we think, and this doesn't have to mean have this guy in your fantasy team because you've drafted your fantasy teams. If you're a player prop better and certain things, a matchup we think will work in the Giants' favor this week, that is where it will lie, fantasy versus reality. We obviously like to eliminate the quarterback stuff in this game because that's obvious, right? There's only one of those guys. And then we'll give you a reality on how the Giants can win this game, will win this game, have to win this game. Bryce, I'll start on the fantasy front here. Look, it's so easy to go with Malik Neighbors here, and that's the obvious pick. So I'm not going to do that. If you want to do that, you could do that.
You can't do it.
I think Tyrone Tracy's rushing for 100 yards in this game. By the way, you want to double up on this? Do whatever. We talked a lot about Cam Scatterbo. Okay. I think people have forgotten that Tyrone Tracy was really good down the stretch last year. Now, we hope he's cleaned up the fumbling. But I think that you're going to have a takeaway from this game going, man, Giant run game, pretty good. I think Washington's going to get exposed a little bit on the run game, and I think that's what's going to keep Jaden Daniels off the field at times this year. I think the Giants will get a turnover or two, and more on that in a second with the reality of this. I think Tyrone Tracy is my fantasy pick. I think you get a 100-yard rushing game out of Tyrone Tracy here in week 1. Now, does that result in touchdowns? I don't know. I mean, they could get in the red zone, throw it up to a tight end. They could have Malik Neighbors running out, this Wan'Dale Robinson catch a touchdown in this game, Slayton on a deep ball, something like that. But I think the grunt and grind work will be done by Tracy and get a 100-yard game. Go.
Tyrone Tracy. Literally, you took the words right out of my mouth. Every single thing you said. Tyrone Tracy played a very good game against the Commanders, and it wasn't sexy by any means. He averaged 4.1 yards per carry, 16 rushes for 66 yards. And Devin Singletary in that first game went off. He completely went off. He had 90-plus yards and a touchdown. I think Tyrone Tracy is going to be the lead back. I mean, obviously he's going to be the lead back, but at some point it's going to become a full-on committee with Scatterbo. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time to integrate him fully into the offense. That's why Tyrone Tracy was my guy from the start. Of course, we're the same year. We're one and the same. But either way, good minds think alike with that Tracy pick.
Okay, great. Now the reality of how the Giants can, maybe, will, whatever, win the game. This is a defensive game, man. Like we talked about the offense. The hype is on the defense. They need to panic Jaden Daniels and make sure they contain him as well. If you're going to send this pass rush at waves, you cannot have him escape as you break contain. And every big third down, you think you're getting home. And there goes Jaden Daniels doing Jaden Daniels things, 15 yards for a first down. They need to panic him into a couple hurry throws. They need to come away from this game. This is a team that takes forever to get interceptions in the pass. No. You got Paulson Adebo there now. Javon Holland. Newman only had the one pass breakup. I need 2 turnovers out of this team this week. It's containing Jaden Daniels. He's going to get his. Look, they're not going to shut out the Washington Commanders in this game. But I think 2 critical turnovers can flip the momentum, flip the field in this game, in a game that should be close. Most football games are close. And you mentioned the spread there as well. I need 2 turnovers and not having Jaden Daniels on every third down take off and get these first downs. That is backbreaking to a team. And I think that's just the simple reality on how the Giants can win this game.
You got to stop the run. Straight up, they got to stop the run, whether it be Jaden Daniels or whoever the hell else, Bill Krosky, Merritt. Like, their running back room, ass. It's not
They
good.
clearly like it to have dumped Brian Robinson.
But I understand that, but Brian Robinson had 0 value. What was he traded for? 6th-round pick? Congratulations. Right. So I don't know. Austin Eckler is currently their RB1. I believe Krosky Merritt is their RB4. That pissed off a lot of people. Fantasy purposes, they think he's going to be the sleeper of the draft. We'll see about that. But their running back room is not great. This game will fall on the shoulders of Jaden Daniels. And what we saw last year, and I want to point out that one particular game that we all witnessed in the playoffs last year against the Lions. He dominated that game because the Lions were unable to generate any pressure from a 4-man pass rush. Yep. The Giants are going to be able to generate that pressure that the Lions could not. They're not going to have to play man and constantly blitz. Like, we know Shane Bowen. We know his type of defense. The Giants are going to play a lot of zone. That's just who Shane Bowen is. That's what we're going to see all season long, okay? Unless he's fine. But I look at this game, and there's going to be a lot of run-pass options for Jaden Daniels. There's going to be a lot of design quarterback runs because, again, it's going to be very difficult for them to generate any sort of run game with their running backs. So that's not to say that Austin, he's washed, okay? Let's get out of the Chris Rodriguez. Like, come on. This game's going to fall on the shoulders of Jaden Daniels. And listen, he's a generational talent. He can win the game. He can lose the game. I think it's essential that the Giants, you say 2 turnovers. I think they need 1. I think 1 is important to rattle Jaden Daniels. I hope preferably early, obviously late if that actually has an impact on the game, but preferably early to get Jaden Daniels a little bit rattled. We're going to get into it, but the Commanders added Laramie Tunsil, who's a 5-time Pro Bowler. They got Deebo Samuel now. Their offense is bolstered. We'll see. The Giants pass rush obviously gotten a lot better. We'll see. You got to stop Jaden Daniels. Number 1, far and away. That's it. All
right. It's game pick time. Giants, anywhere you go. Now, this is where you have to shop around. I'm a guy who does a lot of gambling, and I do content for the BetMGM network. Shop around. The spread has floated the last couple of days, 6.5 for a long time, 5.5. You could have seen it at a couple of days ago, 6 at a lot of books right now. So you're hovering around that number. But it's under the 7, which is obviously a valuable number in Vegas. Bryce, here's where I'm at with this game. I'm scared. I am scared because I feel confident in the Giants, and I don't want to feel confident. I'd rather just go in with no expectations. And while I really don't, there's a part of me that looks at week 1 in the NFL, and I get reminded of this every year. Things are sloppy. Things are clunky. And I think that the Giants have fallen victim to that, which is why I like their preseason approach. I liked it better than the Commanders' preseason approach. Giants always play these tough games versus the Commanders. I have questions. I don't think the Commanders take this massive step back like everybody else does. I think the Giants are going to play a lot of bend but don't break defense. I do. I think the Commanders are going to kick a bunch of field goals in this game. And I think you're getting a thriller in week 1, similar to what you had in 2022 versus the Tennessee Titans. And I think the Giants are going to be trailing in this game 19-17 with about, I think the Commanders kick 1 more field goal, or maybe they go for it on a 4th down, thinking a first down ends the game. The Giants defense stops them. Some kind of like momentum move like this. Russell Wilson makes a play here. Tyrone Tracy breaks off a run here. And I think all the talk about Graham Gano, he sinks a 55-yard field goal at the gun, and the Giants win the game 20-19. Around 4:15 as I take off and run for an Amtrak train. 20-19 Giants win outright in a thriller in week 1. And obviously cover because they won the game outright. What do you got, Bryce?
I think that's a little bit crazy to say right now. I do have to.
Only crazy till it happens.
I have to factor in what happened last season, and I have to factor that in a positive and a negative. The negative being the Giants were an absolute dumpster fire last year, and yes, they made improvements on the offense, on the defense. There seems to be a vibe and culture shift. I'll believe it when I see it. Like, straight up. Like, last year, if you remember, in the joint practice with the Lions team that ended up winning 15 games, the Giants looked good. They looked competent. Well, guess what? The Giants won 3 games. The Lions won 15. So it means nothing. Like, the preseason, the offseason means nothing to me until I see what's on the field. Shane Bowen, his defensive scheme last year, very underwhelming. And I understand he didn't have a lot to work with, but he had one of the best, if not the best, defensive player in football, in Dexter Lawrence. He had a solid pass rush, was not able to do anything else. So I say all that to say this, that I have to factor in what happened last season, not just with the Giants, Commanders as well. They shocked everyone. They made the NFC Championship game. I do think that maybe not by much, but Jaden Daniels is due to regress in his second year. Not a la like C.J. Stroud. That was an absolute disaster. They have no offensive line. Like, different story. So both those things factored in. I think the Giants are going to lose. I think they're going to be up 22-20. And I guess, all right, now here, this is what my original prediction was. And then I saw that it was very close to what was last year in that second game. But I think it's a very close game. And the Giants are up 17-14. And the Commanders go down and they score on a game-winning drive, touchdown. Giants lose the game. We take this away as a depressing loss, but at the same time, it's like the Giants were there the entire game. We both did the same pick. Giants +6 for me. I can't believe that line is at 6, considering the fact that the Giants lost by 3 and then 5 in that second game. I think it's crazy the Giants gotten that much better and the Commanders have improved incrementally. But to say that, and that's what I mentioned before, I think that's factored in with the fact that maybe they don't think that Andrew Thomas is going to play. Yeah. Either way, I do believe the Giants cover in this game.
Okay. I respect that. By the way, I could totally see that happening. I also think line-wise, look, the way these things go, Commanders at home, I think overall the books expect a major step. While some have thought regression, major step forward where Jaden Daniels is an unquestioned top 5 quarterback, and that's where they are. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's there is hype around the Commanders, whether we see it or not. Either way, somebody's going to be right, somebody's going to be wrong. So I'm going to do that whole rat race to and from Northwestern Stadium. I will be in attendance. I'll be able to give you on this podcast next week the recap from my point of view. Bryce will handle things on TV. We plan on banging out the podcast early Monday morning and get it out to you, a full recap episode. And if you have any thoughts on the game that you would like us to tackle, please, by all means, at Bryce Gelman on Twitter, at Shaun Morash on Twitter. And look, at any Giant fans out there who happen to be listening to this before Friday, come out and check out me with Evan, Tiki, Tommy. We're doing the Evan and Tiki show from Giants Fan Fest beginning at 2 o'clock at the American Dream on Friday afternoon as well. Come say hello. Come hang out. We got some very special Giants guests that will join us on the show, both past and current players. Will be there, along with, of course, Giant Great Tiki Barber. So Giant fans, big pep rally, American Dream on Friday. Come check us out beginning at 2 o'clock, lower level main concourse on the stage. We'll have some fun there and get you set for week 1. For Bryce Gelman, I'm Shaun Morash. We'll see you next week. Will the Giants be 1-0, 0-1? Either Bryce, me or him are going to be right on the record. Thanks for taking one giant step with us.